We're due for a talk, guys. Let's get it. All right, the full analysis up until this point. Season ended late November. Whatever was left of November and December, I took it to mostly, chill, kind of just cruise, exercise, ate a lot. That was my job then, to recover from the prep. And then January till April, late April, went hard. So hard that honestly, I think within that time span, in those 4 months, I had already upgraded my physique. But then, I was feeling a little burnt out to the point where I needed me some chill time. And look, there's a point in your bodybuilding training where the more committed you are, the harder you go, the more consistent you are. In general, just the harder you work, the more results you're going to see. But once you have all that stuff laid out and your consistency and your work ethic is no longer really an issue, this is where it becomes a game of chess. Let's not get hit. Okay? Becomes a game of chess. So basically, anyone who's gotten to that point where it's like, okay, I'm a few years in when it comes to this consistent training, they will tell you that despite the fact that they're pretty consistent all the time, there's all these random hot streaks that take place that generally, look, they don't amount for the majority of your progress, but a good chunk of it takes place, right? So think about it. If this is you, think back to last year and think about how there was a few hot streaks that took place where, damn, a lot of good stuff was done. So typically what ends up happening when you do get to this place where, hey, you can't just work harder all the time, you will find yourself in these droughts or slower periods where you're just kind of stuck. And of course, because you still go back to when the solution was like, hey, try harder, because that's still fresh in your mind. Because, hey, realistically, the majority of our progress for most of us took place under those circumstances and that approach to doing things. Eventually, it doesn't work that way, man. And you try harder, things ain't really moving, despite the fact that you're kind of playing with these many different variables that, usually tweaking those things would amount to something. So eventually, what realistically is best is for you to give yourself some space. We know this when it comes to other things. I could be working on someone's program and I'm just stuck, making no progress. This isn't coming out the way I wanted to. Part of me wants to sit there longer and just plug away, figure this out. But what actually quite often is the answer is hey, step away from the computer, go eat a little something, go take a little walk, come back when you're ready, and look how things just start flying again. So the same thing with bodybuilding. I know that a lot of my gains are going to be spurty at this point. When my body and mind is ready, you could say. So now instead of forcing things, it's I'll go hard, and then back off. And honestly, all really good athletes, especially gifted athletes, kind of do this naturally. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that they're just so much more in tune with their body because their body speaks louder to them than ours speaks to us. Sometimes we take it as they're lazy and taking the gifts for granted, but that's not necessarily the case. Made a post on this, actually, worth peeping if you haven't seen it. So yeah, I am ready to attack the situation again. Primarily what I need to really shift my gears on a little bit is going to be my nutrition, eating enough. My body's very weight gain resistant, as some of you guys might know, especially right around this body weight. And then my sleep. I need to get that sleep back to the point where we are averaging 8 to 9 hours a night. So I'm ready. Got from here till November to really put it down. Final statements on this offseason because I'm competing next year. And yeah, I will be releasing these offseason updates every 2 weeks because I think every 2 weeks is about right for the offseason. Prep weekly, but offseason we'll do every 2 weeks from here until basically November. And then I enter another cruisy period because come next April, May, right around there, it's time to prep again. So I'm excited. Pulled away from the computer long enough. It's time to sit back in there in that bodybuilding chair and get to work. And again, really put down some strong closing statements when it comes to this off season. Probably the most common question I get is, are you still training 3 days a week? Yes, I am. Origins of this, post my contest season ending in late November, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this for the rest of November, all the way through December, in order to just recover physically, emotionally, all those things that come with not just prep, but any like big goal you have. You just need a break. So I wanted to push bodybuilding over to the side a little bit. I also wanted to lead by example for my athletes who post-season, look, they're all beat up. We all are. But sometimes they're like, come on, coach, could we only do like minimal training for like 2 weeks tops? And I'm like, bro, this is going to work so much better if you just like give yourself a month, maybe 2. So I wanted to lead by example, show them that, look, I don't just tell you guys to do this, but I do this myself. But by the time that 2-month mark rolled around, I'm like, I'm really digging this. It's allowing me to do other things with my life. So it frees up my time. But most importantly, it was getting me results while keeping me like fresh and feeling good. So we kept running with it. And then I kept creating all these landmarks from like, when I get to March, I'll go back to like 4 or 5 days a week. And then I'd get there and I'm like, this is still working so well. Why would I change it? So here we are. It is August, mid-August, and I'm still training 3 days a week. I will take this split into my contest prep because I do feel that with less total training days, I'm going to be able to dig deeper than ever before. I think I'm going to be able to get leaner than ever before. So I'm excited. Does this mean I'm going to train 3 days a week for the rest of my training career? I don't know. Probably not. However, right now seems to be working really well and I like results. So I'm going to keep writing this thing. All right, here we go. Random snippets from the training. This is my upper back bias row. Basically what I'll do is I'll lean back until I feel the stretch exactly in that back musculature that I'm trying to target. And I end up leaning back enough where it's easy to just maintain this position, even though it's not torso supported. It just works with my setup. Partials on basically all my back movements. I used my first set as kind of an assessment set to see how many full ROM reps I can get, and per tradition, right? And then after that, the sets afterwards, whether it's 1 or 2, I go into partials. Usually it's 2 sets at this point. So a lot more length and bias work is what you're going to see here. So all the bars, thanks to rack pulls in my gym, are bent. So it was getting kind of unsafe to perform RDLs. Had to switch to dumbbells. And since the dumbbells only go up to 200, which is, again, great for pressing, but for a hinge, not as much as you would like, plus the drunk walk sucks. I started to perform my RDLs like this. I got this idea from Eric Helms when we were out in Mexico presenting, and yeah, just stopping it short and then going into partials once again. You have to be very skilled with your hinges to get to this point. So not for everyone, pretty advanced movement in my opinion. Here we go, the lower lat maker. Now we're twisting to get a little bit more range of motion because I was running out of weight and the reps were getting too high. So this brought down my rep range to a more humane area, but also I'm getting more range of motion through those lats. Thing with this movement, I think a lot of people see it as like a finesse, a finisher, when in reality, once you sweat the setup, like it's grip and rip time, baby. Like it's mindless. It's literally just try really fucking hard. And on this particular day, this is like the first thing I do. So it's not a finisher. It's not something you do to like put in the details. Once you nail that setup, it really is just green light go. So yeah, partials on these ones as well. I do need someone to stand on the back of my bench, and thankfully the gym I go to, everyone's like pro, go and get it. So it's easy to find. Let's see. Yeah, all my pressing is kind of pumping iron-ish, which is hilarious because, man, I think the first time I watched pumping iron, I was still a small boy. And I'm like, man, like, what are these guys doing? They're just kind of like staying here. Even Franco with his big ass chest was just kind of hovering here. And then without realizing it, some time passes by, I get a little bit girthier, and that's kind of sort of what my presses kind of turned into without really realizing it. And then YouTube came around and started to upload things online, and the analytics crew was like, that wasn't 10 reps, that was 5. So I started pressing the other way, even though that didn't necessarily feel very natural to me. But we're back to this, and let's see what happens. I like it because, again, like, what I'm trying to target is really, really held to the fire, especially through those lengthened portions of the lift, and especially on this machine. Really, really nice. This machine is especially heavy at the bottom. So yeah, kind of foregoing that last bit, I feel like my triceps are less of a limiting factor, as a matter of fact, and I do feel like I get much better like work up here. Like I can usually gauge this by the days after, like how much I swell up in those areas. So again, first set on this one, I take it all the way to like close-ish to RPE 10, like 9 or so, and this is how I track progress. And then everything else is just kind of like, I go until the range of motion disintegrates to like nearly nothing. So I have a spotter here because this one's kind of close. Like where it bottoms out is still within like my range of motion, but just in case, it's especially on presses, it's good to have just someone there keeping an eye on you. Also, shout outs to Dave McConey, because he called me out on a podcast. He's like, it seems like on your presses you never really go all the way down. And I'm like, yeah, you got a point there. Let's adventure into those zones and see what happens. And this machine just feels super natural for me. So okay, dumbbell lat row, but actually it's a very similar path to the dumbbell row, or just like a cable like lat bias row, but we're kind of coming across like our body. So think of it this way. Imagine a stop sign's right here, random, I know, stop sign, and you're trying to stretch your lats on it. It's not going to be like right here. It's going to be across your body. So kind of the same deal here. I'm bringing it across my body, getting an amazing stretch, and yeah, it's torture. Like you can really feel it. Like once you put it back, like your lats are just buzzing, and especially on this functional trainer, it's got some handles there. Really easy to get done. I just switched it though to like a more typical lat bias row just to save time, because hey, when you do single arm stuff, it takes twice as long. But look, we do have some more traditional back work. I love neutral grip pull downs. Same deal here though. Like we go into partials basically and make sure the whole area is swept. At this point, I'm like, why aren't more people doing this? Like, I think it's just, yeah, it just goes against like certain dogmas, right? Like, anyhow, in my opinion, as of right now, I have the right to change my opinion. I think that's how back work should be performed. It's like RPE 10 isn't when you can't get it down here. Like, you know, there's all this room here to play with. And, you know, again, the severity of the partials just kind of depends on like how good I feel, how late I am into the training block. Because yeah, I will get it to the point, especially towards the end of a surge of a training block, where they really turn into almost nothing. But I'll tell you what, it feels like very valuable work once you do get the hang of it. So just takes a while to get the hang of it. For a lot of people, it takes a while to get the hang of it up here, because it just breaks all the rules. You ain't playing bodybuilding right, bro, right? That's kind of what your mind tells you. This is one of those where embarrassing, like the cable should be higher, because you can see how it's kind of twisting up. I'm not getting a whole lot of tension at the bottom, and this is why you should be recording your stuff, even when you're quite experienced and think you know that you know what you're doing. It'll catch things. So yeah, note to self. lengthened medial delt work. This has worked wonders like for my delts. I think I hadn't done a whole lot of it prior to the prep or done it right, but now we're doing it even better, and we're doing it with a caloric surplus. So I really do think my delts are going to be just on a different level next time I compete, which is next year. Okay, yeah, I guess we got that physique check coming in. Yeah, I kind of look like a mess to some extent, but this is 20 pounds over, and I do think once I get the food thing organized, it's going to be some very clean weight. I only have about 4-ish pounds to gain between now and November, really, but I think it's going to be, like, in some spots I might even look leaner. So this is what we look like. I flex the abs a little bit in my front relax and when I'm cuddlier, right, in the off season, just so that, you know, you can kind of see what's going on there. And so yeah, no, not bad, but we can do better. Most of this was done. The small little things that maybe only I can notice when it comes to improvements was done January through April. All right, here's the back. All right, that's what I got for you guys. So hopefully I get back on my stuff. I will. And hopefully we make for some changes that you guys notice. So I just got to get better with my eating, which for me at a certain point, it's hard to eat enough. And then my sleep, I bed by 10 p.m., up by 7 a.m. Like that's, if I do that from here until November, I think I won't have to explain to you guys the changes that I've made. I think you guys will be able to see them. So hopefully this video here, I want to be able to put a side-by-side together at 5 pounds heavier. And I think if I do this right, like people might be like, you look leaner in some spots. I can see that happening. But for sure, once I trim it back down and I get back to about this body weight, 179, 180, I'll top out at about 185. I think it'll be very obvious, like, oh wow, like you put in some work. So excited about the next few months, excited to share this with you guys. Questions, comments, all that stuff welcomed. Yeah, however I can be of service to you guys, y'all let me know. Also, hot off the press, but only for the people who made it this far into the video. Link is all the way at the bottom of the description, hidden. Last time these didn't last very long, so yeah, I wanted all the real ones to get first dibs. This is a large, and I am about 180 pounds. So yeah, probably get another 10 pounds out of it, but link is all the way at the bottom, hidden. Shh.